for June 21st.
Recording in progress.
And I'll pass it over to the clerk to get things started.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'll begin with the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we are on the lands of Anishinaabe Nation. This spot where we gather is the traditional lands of the Three Fires Confederacy, the Ottawa, Potawatomi, and Ojibwe. We also recognize that this land is now home to the Delaware Nation. This land was settled through the McKee Purchase Treaty of 1790, and we, as beneficiaries of the treaty, must recognize our responsibilities, including our collective responsibilities to the land and water. There is no supplementary agenda item this evening, Mr. Mayor, and we have one disclosure of pecuniary interest, and that is with regards to Councillor Solomon on item 10D. And we'll pass it over to Planning Services.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. The planning meeting process will be as follows. 1, the clerk will announce each individual planning item. 2, the clerk will advise if any written submissions have been received regarding a planning item. If so, the clerk will read the written submissions that have been received. 3, for any items where a written submission is received, the administration will proceed with presentation. 4, council will be asked if it has any questions of administration or the applicant if present. 5, council will be asked what action it wishes to take with regard to the item. Notice, if any person or public body that files an appeal of a decision of council in respect of the proposed applications does not make a submission to the municipal clerk of the municipality before the proposal is approved, they are not entitled to appeal a decision to the local planning appeal tribunal if otherwise eligible, unless in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to add the person or public body as party to the appeal. Information on council's actions tonight will be posted on the municipal website. All persons who have made a request or who have made a submission regarding a particular planning item will receive a notice of council's decision, including appeal procedures. Any other person who wishes to receive a notice of decision must submit a written request to the municipal clerk. Thank you.
Thank you. 10A, application for consent, John and Patricia Serapinikas. Sorry if I've messed that up, John. McEwen Line, Community of Zone, East Kent. We have received no deputations with regards to this item.
Councillor Pinsino and Councillor Wright, can I get you to move this, please?
Happy to move that, Your Worship.
Move it. Second there, Mayor Caniff. Thank you.
Any questions? Councillor Wright?
None, I just never got my hand down.
Okay. Seeing no questions, we'll put it to vote.
Just waiting for one more, councillors. Okay, all votes are in. Motion passes. Moving on to 10B, application for zoning bylaw amendment 1934446 Ontario Inc., 510 Wallace Street, Community of Wallaceburg. Again, we have not received any deputations on this report.
Councillor Hall and Councillor C. McGregor, can I get you to move this, please?
Happy to move the recommendations, Mayor Caniff.
Happy to second it. Thank you.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll put it to vote.
All votes are in. Motion passes. Moving on to 8C, applications for consent and zoning bylaw amendment 2820150 Ontario Limited, 21275 Klondike Road, Community of Wheatley, West Kent. No deputations were received on this item.
Councillor Harrigan and Councillor Sakachi, can I get you to move this, please?
Hi, it's Councillor Harrigan. I'll move the recommendations.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. I will second the recommendations.
Any questions? Hearing none, we'll put it to vote.
All votes are in. Motion passes. Moving on to 10D, application for zoning bylaw amendment 002821727 Ontario Inc., 15 and 21 McHugh Ave, Community of Chatham City. Councillor Solomon has declared a conflict of interest, and I have one deputation to read for council on this report. This is from Les Banks. I am writing to oppose the zoning bylaw amendment. There is already an issue with parking, and by eliminating the existing parking lot with the building, it will be down to parking on the street. The previous yoga studio that was at the location had 10 to 12 vehicles sometimes, and many took up spots on the street. Some houses on the street and others in the area have no driveways and rely on street parking. It will also decrease the value of residential properties in the area, and proof of this can be found by looking at impact that allows for lowering values on assessments for residential homes located near the businesses. Regards, Les Banks.
Mr. Jacques, do you have a brief presentation?
The subject properties are located on the north side of McHugh Avenue in the community of Chatham. Historically, these properties functioned as a church with an adjacent parking lot. They've since changed ownership a couple of times over the past few years, and the new owners intend to make a home in the former church building. As it's currently zoned institutional, a zoning bylaw amendment is required to add a residential use in the zone for that property. As well, the opportunity existed to add a residential use as a permitted use in the zone to the adjacent property, which is currently a parking lot. With respect to the letter received, it's important to point out that there are several blocks in this area of Chatham that developed as a neighborhood, whereas there were no driveways implemented for off-street parking from the streets. Therefore, in this neighborhood, street parking as well as rear yard parking through alleyway access is the primary means of parking for this neighborhood. This proposal will continue that function in this neighborhood as it will apply to the new residential uses at this property. Thank you.
Councillor B. McGregor and Councillor Finn, can I get you to move this, please?
I'll move the recommendations.
Seconded.
Any questions? Hearing none, we'll put it to vote.
All votes are in. Motion passes. 10E, application for zoning bylaw amendment, First Family Homes, Inc., Lance Boulevard and Edward Court, Community of Blenheim, South Kent. There have been no deputations received on this item.
Councillor Latimer and Councillor Thompson, can I get you to move this, please?
So moved.
And happy to second it.
Any questions? Hearing none, we'll put it to vote.
All votes are in. Motion passes. Moving on to 10F. Application for zoning bylaw amendment, James and Claudia Bolche, 11573 Ridge Line, Community of Harwich, South Kent. I have received one deputation for this report, and I will read it now. I am writing to you in regards to an application for zoning bylaw amendment from James and Claudia Bolche. My name is Colin Vinn, and I am president of Nouvelle Vie Farms Limited, an egg and cash crop farm in the former Howard and Harwich townships of the municipality of Chatham-Kent. Nouvelle Vie's laying hen barn is beside the property applying for the zoning bylaw amendment. I support the motion, but would ask council to leave the Bolche property zoned agriculture forever. If the zoning were to ever change to recreational or institutional, it would throw my barn and the Bolche's residents out of compliance. I would really appreciate to continue normal farm practices, temporary field storage of manure, and orderly expansion of egg farm that can only happen if the Bolche farm stays zoned agriculture. As long as this can happen, I am supportive of the motion. I strive to be a great neighbor and always doing my best to accommodate reasonable requests, but this is still a farm country, and I can it can mean manure, flies, and odors during field applications as part of a normal field farm practice. I wish the Bolches all the best in their future. I have no idea why anyone would want to be a municipal councillor, but I'm sure glad they exist, and I'm thankful for all of your efforts. Respectfully, Colin Vinn, Nouvelle Vie Farms Limited.
Mr. Jacques, you have a presentation?
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. The subject property is located on the north side of Ridge Line between Blenheim and Ridgetown in Chatham-Kent. The property has long been not used for active agricultural production. Since the 1980s, a former racetrack has been closed on this property. Recently, it's changed ownership, and the new owners have constructed a home on the property and have brought forward the zoning bylaw amendment application to allow outdoor events to occur on this property, such as weddings. With respect to the letter received, as detailed in the planning report, the impact on agricultural operations was reviewed carefully by both municipal planning staff as well as the planner hired by the applicant. Consultation was undertaken directly with the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, as well as the neighboring property owner. And this proposal meets all the agricultural related regulations. If in the future any land use changes are proposed that could create a new conflict, a new planning process will be undertaken, and the necessary due diligence will be undertaken as well to determine whether or not conflicts to existing agricultural lands would be possible, and they would be dealt with at that time. And there are no conflicts as a result of this proposal. Thank you.
Councillor Thompson and Councillor Latimer, can I get you to move this, please?
Happy to move it.
So seconded.
Any questions? Hearing none, we'll put it to vote.
All votes are in, motion passes. Moving on to 10G, application for consent and zoning bylaw amendment, Carol Knight, 15648 McDonald Line, Community of Orford, East Kent. There have been no deputations received on this matter, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Wright and Councillor Pinsino, can I get you to move this, please?
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. I'd move that forward.
I'd like to second that, Your Worship.
Any questions? Hearing none, we'll put it to vote.
Just waiting for one more, Council. There we go. All votes are in and motion passes. 10H, application for consent and zoning bylaw amendment, Cox Corporation, 2459 Talbot Trail, Community of Romney, West Kent. There have been no deputations received on this item.
Councillor Harrigan and Councillor Sakachi, can I get you to move this, please?
Yes, Mayor Caniff, I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will second the recommendations.
Any questions? Seeing none, put it to vote.
All votes are in and motion passes.
Recording stopped.
10I, application for consent and zoning bylaw amendment, Mark and Lori Ann Herman, 4706.
Recording in progress.
4708 Tecumseh Line, Community of Tilbury East, West Kent. There have been no deputations received on this item.
Councillor Harrigan and Councillor Sakachi, can I get you to move this, please?
Happy to move these recommendations, Mayor Caniff.
Thank you, Your Worship. Happy to second the recommendations.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll put it to vote.
All votes are in and motion passes. 10J, applications for consent and zoning bylaw amendment, Jose and Maria Pereira and Mark Loke, 24430 and 24464 Baldoon Road, Community of Dover, North Kent. There have been no deputations received on this item.
Councillor Foss and Councillor McGrail, can I get you to move this, please?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll be happy to move it.
And I will be happy to move this for Vasto and the Pereira family too.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll put it to vote.
All votes are in and motion passes. 10K, application for consent and zoning bylaw amendment, Margaret Seliga and Charlene Chalmers, 11891 Beechwood Line, Community of Howard, East Kent. There have been no deputations received on this item.
Councillor Pinsonneau and Councillor Wright, can I get you to move this, please?
Happy to move that, Your Worship.
I'll second it, Mayor Canna. Thank you.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll put it to vote.
Just waiting for one more.
Madam Clerk, my wheel's just spinning. I did hit submit, but I don't think it's accepting it right now.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Sakachi. We'll make note. And what is your vote?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. All votes are in and motion passes. Moving on to notices of motion. There were none received this evening, and I'll pass it back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, with that, we'll move to non-agenda business. Councillor Wright.
Councillor Wright, if you're talking, you are still muted.
We'll move on to Councillor Latimer. We'll give Councillor Wright an opportunity to get to his microphone working.
Can you hear me, Judy? Sorry.
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Oh, perfect. Thank you through the mayor. I had wanted to ask a question because I had a constituent call me asking who was on the committee who was gathering the information from the public engagement regarding the woodlot preservation, and that would be part of assisting the administrative staff to bring the recommendations to council. Who makes up that committee? I tried to look for that information. I couldn't find it. Is anybody there to answer the question? Oh, thanks, Bruce.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Your Worship. Just so I understand the question, maybe I'm a little confused with regard to a committee with regard to the motion. Maybe you could clarify for that.
What the constituent was asking is that who was part of the committee taking the information gathered to the public engagement and assisting staff to put forth the recommendations to council. Because this constituent felt that as per a provincial mandate, that there must be agricultural representation on any such committee dealing with woodlots. And that's through the provincial policy. Now, they couldn't cite me, the provincial paper. I asked them, that information is being provided to me, but I didn't know whether you knew anything about that.
Thank you, Your Worship. At this point in time, the direction of council was simply to go out to the community, engage on the motion. So that's what we're doing. A committee being established at this point in time. So, and that could very well be a recommendation in the future out of this whole process. But at this point in time, there hasn't been a special committee struck specific to woodlots. Mm-hmm.
So we would expect that the information gathered from the community engagement process currently taking place is not going to result in a recommendation coming to council with a decision with regard to what to do going forward on this. It would be used to come up a strategy or development of a strategy. Is that what you're telling me, Bruce?
Yeah, so the intent is to come back after the consultation is scheduled to run until July 9th. Obviously, we need time to feedback and report that back out to council on what we've heard in a format that you can understand. And then probably with some options to consider next steps, frankly, is what the outcome of that will be. Mm-hmm.
Alrighty. Well, thank you for that clarification. And I will proceed or talk, get back to you once I hear with regard to this provincial policy that may have impact on what we're doing or not. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. Taking a lot of slack the last few days over this Gosnell line out here between Highgate and Ridgetown, especially from the Kennesary to Highgate, where they're cutting down 61 mature trees. A lot of them are 50 to 100 years old. It's for a new hydro service. The hydro lines have to be relined out of the fields to the road. At first, the poles were supposed to be put in closer to the road so that there wouldn't be no trees taken out. And then for some reason, the poles had to be moved back in line with the trees. So it's actually a clear cutting from the Kennesary to Highgate. There was no public notices given to none of the public on this. There's no tree replant program in to say where these trees would be replanted or nothing. This is getting a lot of attention from farmers and the public. Today, my phone never stopped all day, people calling and wanted to know why we're letting it happen, or why wasn't the public notice, where's the trees going to be planted, so on and so on. I got an email from CK staff the day that they started cutting the trees, and the only thing that was about it was necessary because of the new lines, and that Chatham-Kent would be cleaning up the brush. And I don't know if they're removing the stumps or not to save costs. This wasn't the time to send an email when the chainsaws were already out. This is going back to CK not being good stewards of the land, and we're not showing the public that we are by not replanting trees or telling them where we're going to replant trees or nothing. It just doesn't make sense.
Councillor Wright, your microphone just went off about 10 seconds ago. There you go.
Okay, just don't make sense to take trees out and not have a replant program and tell people where we're going to plant these trees. This don't look good on us right now. Thank you.
Bruce, are you going to answer that?
Well, I can maybe answer part of that, Your Worship. Thank you. I might lean on Thomas Kelly for the details of the project itself, but I think it's important to point out to the public that, you know, this type of work is sometimes necessary, and this type of work is exempt under the current tree bylaw. You know, work within the municipal right of way and work of, you know, a transmitter like Hydro One. I don't have all the specifics on. I understand they did try to avoid most of the trees if possible where there were constraints in the right of way. And I just remind council that, you know, back in budget this year, council did allocate 75,000 this year and into next year. What we call the cut a tree, replace a tree program. It may not be in the exact same location, but, you know, Public Works never had a pot of money before to replace trees that were cut down for this very type of purpose. So I'm not sure if Thomas Kelly has anything further to add on the specifics of the work at all.
Thank you, Bruce. It's
Thanks.
General Manager of IES. So first of all, Councillor, I wanted to make you aware that this is an Ontario Hydro project, and I certainly take your comments about public notice and so on, but It's their project and we're just supporting them on it. So it's a case where they have new lines going in. It's going to be increased service to the residents in that area. And what this work is being done is it was the best option to move those poles. They had to move them to an area that, yes, there was tree interference. And so we've just been working with them. Of these 60 trees, we've been looking at them anyway, and they are on the right of way, but at least a third of them would have had to been removed anyway due to age and safety issues. So again, we're just supporting, it's an Ontario Hydro project, and we'll be sure to contact them to let them know your feedback and see if there's anything we can do better in the future with them to at least give some advance notice. But as Bruce said, we have $75,000 right now. That money was meant for all of CK. And typically we don't like to put trees on the right of way just for visibility reasons, but it's always something we can look at. The tree may be replanted, maybe not on the side of the road, but in another park or someplace more appropriate. So that's our current plan, and I'll be sure to contact Ontario Hydro with your comments. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Harrigan, followed by Councillor Bondy.
Thank you, Mayor Kenneth. I just wanted to take a moment to wish all of council and members of our community a happy National Indigenous Peoples Day. As a day, it gives us an opportunity to reflect on and learn about and celebrate the diverse heritage and cultures and also outstanding achievements of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples across Canada. For those who did not have an opportunity to participate in anything today, there's lots of resources and stories available on the internet. And to those in this community and the communities around us who volunteered time to share some of your stories and to celebrate, I want to thank everybody for that. There's an outstanding Zoom celebration today that was put on by a number of organizations and communities that are connected to Chatham-Kent. So thank you for that.
Councillor Bondy.
Thank you, Mayor Kenneth. I'd like to read a letter I received today anonymously. I don't know where it came from, but it's okay. It's a little long, not really that bad, but I think it's worth council hearing it, as it's very difficult in these times to share this sort of stuff. And we don't get too many handwritten things anymore. So if you'll indulge me, I will read it. It's titled Reflections on a Walk in the Woods. I'm a former farmer. For the past 6 years, I can qualify as an official non-agrarian. At present, I'm still enjoying the quality of life, the type of existence called independent living. That, of course, taking advantage of all the amenities offered by a loving family and a check-writing government. For 60-some years, I lived on a farm, the centerpiece of which was 25 acres of Carolinian woods. Without a doubt, a walk in the woods transcends all other avenues we have to commune with God. Our woods was blessed with an added heavenly gift in that it was the summer dwelling place of big blue herons. They arrive early in the spring and leave early in the fall. Our herons came back to their big nest at eventide, having satisfied their food cravings from the Thames River during the day. Waiting for them to glide into their homes in the tallest trees was a life-lasting experience. Sitting on a log in the quiet serenity of tall trees and surrounded by a blanket of white trilliums, tossing their heads in the breeze, I was hearing a pleading whisper, "You must preserve us." Thus my jots and thoughts at this advanced time of my life. Some can satisfy their commune with God by daily or weekly presence on a wooden pew, listening and praying. During the week, they may be plotting the project of clear cutting, the only remaining century-old monuments to God's blessings to all of us. Trees breathe in carbon monoxide that is of human life, made the result of production of what we call necessities of life. The collective roots of the forest are sponges of rain-given life that is gradually rationed to parched land in periods of drought. The beauty of our surroundings is God-given, and the destruction of such is a loss for all future generations. A few years ago, a neighboring woods disappeared in weeks. Loggers are a sneaky lot. They start in the mid-forest so that the sounds of destruction are muffled. This wood was also home to herons. The Ministry of Natural Resources sent an inspector to investigate the nest destruction 6 months after the bulldozing had left a nice level field for crop production the next year. For those of you who have never been treated to a walk in the woods, I shall leave you with the good luck in your deliberations on cyber technology and Rose Beach line decisions. I pray that you will cast reflection and sober thoughts on what Southern Ontario, devoid of woodlots, would be like. Our next generation's access to the enviable joys of a good walk in the woods would be forever lost. Thank you. No idea who it came from, but I felt it was worth reading. Thank you for the indulgence, Mayor Kenneth.
Okay, seeing nothing else, we'll move to reading of first and second bylaw. Councillor Solomon, Councillor Pinsino.
Moved. I'll second that, Your Worship.
Any questions? Here, anyone opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Third and final reading, Councillor Foss and Councillor Bondi.
I move.
Seconded.
Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Over to you, Councillor C. McGregor, and Councillor Crew can get the honors tonight to second it.
I'll second that. Did we get cut out? Can't even do that right tonight.
Councillor C.
Can
McGregor,
you
do you
hear
want
me?
to?
Can anybody hear me?
Yep, go ahead. We can hear you.
Can you hear me now? Okay. I'd move that the Chatham-Kent Council adjourn to its next meeting to be held on Monday, June 28th, 2021, and that Chatham-Kent Council authorize itself to meet in closed session on that day to discuss any matters by the Municipal Act.
And Councillor Crew second that. Anyone opposed?
I will.
Anyone opposed to ending this meeting now? Seeing none, it's a wrap. Thanks, everyone.